Good evening. I'm LaToya Jackson. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Engagement and Philanthropy for the UCF Alumni Office and your host for this evening's workshop. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. This is one of our favorite events that we get to host, and we love welcoming families and local families and Knights back to campus so they can learn more about what we have to offer at UCF and the potential that it has to offer your future Knights. Our team at UCF Alumni is committed to supporting the fundraising efforts at the university. We do this tons of ways, through the promotion of meaningful philanthropy, through an emphasis on building UCF pride through the community, and through fostering a lifelong connection with our alumni, students, parents, donors, and friends through events like this. Today's event, the Legacy Admissions Workshop, is one piece of that incredibly crucial effort. We want to help this community of Knights and potential Knights feel well-informed, prepared, and enthusiastic about the opportunities available at UCF. I'm so grateful to serve UCF in this capacity, and I appreciate you joining us tonight. And for everybody at home, hi, thank you for joining us as well. We have almost 200 alumni across the country that are watching from home, and we're grateful that we're able to share this with them as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker this evening, Elizabeth Costello. A native of New York City, Elizabeth earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Management from Green Mountain College and a Master of Business Administration degree from FIT. Elizabeth began her career in college admissions as an admissions counselor at Green Mountain College and then at Trinity College of Vermont, a women's college. Currently the director of the University of Central Florida's Office of Undergraduate Admissions, she joined UCF in 2000 as an assistant director of admissions. While at UCF, she's also served as senior assistant director of undergraduate admissions, the associate director for recruitment, and the senior associate director for recruitment. So Elizabeth is definitely the person we want to be giving this presentation to all of you tonight. She has presented at local, regional, national level professional conferences, and she is an expert in everything UCF. So please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Costello.
Thank you. Good evening. You can do a little bit better than that. Good evening. I know it's there we go. There we go. Well, I am very excited to be here tonight. This is one of my favorite programs to do. It is definitely exciting to be in front of all these UCF Knights. I am, as LaToya said, I am not an alum, but I have been here for 20 years, so I think that makes me an honorary alum. So being in front of all of you guys is definitely something that's exciting for me, and hopefully tonight will be informative. We'll give you some information about the process, and I definitely want to be able to leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So I'm going to just start off now, but before I do, I want to kind of get a feel. I know there's a lot of folks outside on the live stream, but from in the room, how many of you, the students in the room, are currently in middle school? I just want to kind of get a feel for my audience. How about freshmen in high school? Sophomores in high school? Juniors? And current seniors, class of 2020, excellent. Can you believe it's 2020? And I'm going to ask parents as well as students, how many of you are a little nervous or anxious about the process of the college admissions road? A number of hands went up if you can't see online, and everyone who didn't raise their hand is lying to me. So it's an anxious process. We know that. It's been a crazy year in college admissions. If you've been following a lot of things on the news, you've probably seen a lot about college admissions. We've gotten a lot of publicity in the past year or so. And it's added anxiety to the process of an already process that's anxiety-filled. So hopefully tonight, be able to take maybe some myths that you may have heard, kind of talk about the process, what you should be looking for during the college search, and maybe hopefully give you some tidbits to, as you're doing your applications in a year or 2 years or 3 years down the road, that you'll be able to remember as you go through that down. Obviously, I am There we go. Obviously, I am an expert in UCF. I've worked here for 20 years, so I have a lot of information about that. So anything that I talk about, I want to mention a little bit about the state university system in Florida. But the best thing for you to do is to go out on these institutions' websites. I can't give you specific information about them. I can give you the specific information about UCF. But the specific information about all the other institutions in the state and around the country, the best place to do that research is going online and going and find that information out, because we all have websites that are incredibly detailed because we want to be able to provide as much information to students as possible. So definitely do that. But behind me on the slide is all of the 12 institutions that make up the state university system here in Florida. I am very pleased to say that I think that anybody can get an amazing, amazing education staying here in Florida. We have 12 incredible institutions. They range in size. Some are very large institutions like UCF. Some are smaller institutions. Some are in rural areas. Some are in more urban areas. Some of them are focused on just like the STEM majors. Some are ones in honors college. So there's just so many options for students. I really believe that any student who wants to stay in the state of Florida for their college degree will have an amazing opportunities and be able to really have a quality education. These are the websites that are covered for all of the 12. And like I said, I encourage you to definitely go out on those websites and really kind of do some research and talk. We'll be talking a little bit about the requirements of what to be looking for and kind of things that you should be keeping an eye out for. But these are the websites that are really going to kind of tell you everything about the institution. Admissions is typically where we would have the information on the website for. Each of the colleges within the university have websites, so they're really, really robust sites that you're able to really get a lot of information. But the admissions office is typically the best place to start. There's definitely been some changes in college admissions in the past 20, 30 years. It's not the same as it was back when I went to college and when I was doing my college search. A lot of things have changed. One of the biggest things, there was no internet. Imagine that. There was no internet, there was no social media, there were no online classes, there were no online degrees. When you were doing a college search, you were reading view books that were mailed to your home. You were going to your high school counselor's office and going through boxes of brochures that we had sent out to high schools around the country because we wanted to get that information. Now you have that on your phone. You have that in your pocket. You have it in your room on your laptop. So that has really changed the landscape of how students have done research on college admissions. Applying to more colleges. We have a number of different options that weren't available 20 years ago. The common application and the coalition application are application options, which I'll talk a little bit about in a bit, but those are options where you can fill out an application and you can submit that to a number of different institutions. For example, the Common App is accepted at over 700 different institutions around the country, including UCF. And you can fill that out and submit it. So it's easier for students to apply to other institutions. When I was going to college, and I'm going to show my age right now, but when I was going to college, I typed my application with a typewriter. That kind of prevented me from submitting a lot of different applications. It's very time consuming, so that has changed the landscape. High school academics have changed. 20 or 30 years ago, students had a 3.0. That's a solid GPA. That's a solid B. They were not taking accelerated courses. I know my math courses in high school were Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, Trigonometry. Now calculus is taken by a lot of students, and that's a great thing. We have AP classes, we have IB, ACE courses that you can get advanced credit for, dual enrollment classes that you can take so you're getting college level credit prior to even coming out of high school. Those are all options that really weren't that well known or that people weren't really taking a real, some students would do it, but it wouldn't be a lot of students would be taking part in that. So that has changed the landscape as well. So when you see all of our applications and all of our websites will show averages that we have, our average GPA. And a lot of times we'll say our average GPA is a 4.2. And you're thinking, how can that possibly happen on a 4.0 scale? That is because of weighting. We weight higher level courses like AP and like dual enrollment, and I'll speak a little bit about that as we go through the program, but that has changed. Back 20, 30 years ago, students were on a 4.0 scale and there wasn't anything above a 4.0. That was the highest that you possibly could have. Increased competitiveness, as I mentioned, a lot of students are applying to more than one institution. They're applying to 5, 6, 7 institutions, maybe even more. As the number of applications increase in all of our applicant pools around the country, it gets more and more competitive. Typically, our size of our freshman class is not going to change. So our application numbers may go up, but we don't necessarily have additional spaces for that. So the competitiveness is there. An increased cost is a given. If you look at the cost of college education over the past couple of decades, it has increased dramatically. I'm very pleased to say that here in Florida, and at UCF in particular, we're one of the most affordable college education tuition rates that you would have in the country. But it is still expensive. It is still something that families have to plan for. It's something that families have to really discuss and think about, even though it is one of the most affordable ones in the nation. But college is definitely something that that cost piece is part of the search process, which I'll chat a little bit about too. So what are the things that you should be looking for in your college search? If I am going to throw a question out and just raise your hand or yell out a number, how many colleges and universities do you think there are in the nation? Any guesses? How many? 200. That's a number a lot of people will say. Over 4,000. Over 4,000 institutions around the country that offer 2- and 4-year bachelor's degrees. So that is a lot of schools. This up here is kind of going to talk a little bit about what I believe is really important to be considering while you're doing your college search. And doing your college search can start as early as middle school. It can start in freshman, sophomore year. I don't think it's ever necessarily too early to start thinking, not obsessing, but thinking about it is going to be important. Size of the institution is really, really important. When you think about what kind of school you want to go to, that is one of the pieces that I think is really important for you to think about. Do I want to go to a big school? Do I want to go to a mid-sized school, maybe 10, 15,000 students? Do I want to go to a small school? I've met with many, many students over the years who have said that they want to come to a big school and they're excited by that. When I ask them the question of, how do you learn best and what's your favorite kind of classes and the size of the classes in high school? And I like the really small classes with 10 or 15 students in it. That's wonderful. A large public institution may not be that good fit. So that's what you have to really think about. You have to think, am I going to be comfortable in a class with maybe 200 students? That may be something that's exactly what you want, but you have to think about it. As a student, think about those things throughout the process. Location seems easy too. A lot of times as students are going through the process, they start to think, I would like to go to school in Seattle. Yes, I want to be as far away from home as humanly possible. That's great. You apply, you get in, you choose to go to a school in Seattle, and you're here in Orlando. And unfortunately, at that point in time, as you're packing up your things the week before you go, you think, I don't really want to be in Seattle. I want to be closer to home. I don't want to be that far away. You don't want to be thinking about that in August as you're making that decision and packing things up. You want to have that kind of thought process. Do I want to be a car ride away? Do I want to be a plane ride away? Am I okay with that? Am I okay maybe coming home at Thanksgiving for my first time home? Or do I want to come home after a couple of weeks, which I'm probably going to have to drive? So think about that as well. Degrees and majors offered should be a given, but it's not. I always give an example of a student that I spoke with who was one of my favorite students a number of years ago. He was coming here to the university, and he was an engineering major, and he got here to orientation, and we have an amazing engineering and computer science program, but he came to me and he said, at orientation, he walked in, he said, I was confused, I was at orientation, and I didn't see what my major was. I didn't see an advisor for my major. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, I'm interested in chemical engineering. We don't offer chemical engineering. He assumed that because we have a College of Engineering and Computer Science, we would also have chemical engineering. those are the kind of things that if you have your heart set on a certain major, and being undecided is perfectly okay, so don't feel that you have to have one, but if you are very certain about what you want to major in, you need to make sure that the schools that you're looking for have that major. You don't want to get through the whole process and then find out, that's not, what am I going to do? So think about those things. Cost, as I mentioned before, family decision. Talk about those things early. You don't want to be making a decision in April, right before that May 1st deadline where you're going to be depositing at the institution of your choice. You don't want to be coming at that point thinking, this is not going to work out. Tuition is $45,000 a year. I'm not going to be able to make this work, or we're not going to be able to make this work. That's a decision, that's a conversation that you definitely want to be having early on so that everyone's expectations are there and that you don't have to worry about that in the very last month of as you're making your decision. A lot of self-reflection is important in the process, and I think that's one of the things that maybe students don't think initially that they need to do a lot of it, and that is, it's very, very important. Admission requirements, types of applications. Every institution has a different way of having students apply. For example, here at UCF, we take the Common App and we take our own institutional online application. But every institution is different. So you have to do that research and you have to really see what the options are at the schools that you're looking at. You have to know, do they take the coalition application? Do they only take the Common application? And really know those pieces. Types of admission. There are a number of different things, and like I said, this is an anxiety-filled process, and I'm trying to take that down, but there's some things that I want you to know that there's differences. Types of admission. A student institution can be a rolling admission institution, such as UCF. What that means is that as students start applying, we open our application on August 1st. Students submit their application. We start making decisions on September 1st. And then at that point, we are making decisions pretty much daily throughout the entire process. We don't have a notification date. We're on rolling. So we're rolling out those decisions as they happen. Other institutions have notification dates. They say our deadline to apply is November 1st. So you have to have your application in by November 1st. And then we will notify you on February 1st. So at that point, you know, I need to get my application in by that date. And I know that I'll have a decision on this date. So that's another way that students can apply and another way of applying. There's things called early decision or an early action. Those are also ways that some institutions, mostly private institutions, have their admission review process. Early decision is when a student applies and basically has an agreement that says, I'm applying to you, you're my first choice, and if I am admitted, I'm going to come to your institution. And it's pretty much binding. Early action is similar, only it's not binding. So a lot of different ways that an institution can have their application review process going. So those are the things, those are the questions to ask, because you want to know, can I apply in August? Do I have to apply by November 1st? Can I still apply in March? Those sort of things are definitely important. Those are the top 5. There are other things too that are going to be important to you, and you know what they are. You may be in certain clubs and organizations that you want to continue on in college. Those are important. Include that information on your list. But I think the most important thing that you're going to be looking at and trying to find is that word right there, and that's fit. You have to make sure that you are a good fit for an institution and that institution is a good fit for you. Every school is not for everyone, and that's okay. You need to go on a campus and say, can I picture myself being here for the next 4 years? That's going to be your home away from home, and you want to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you feel a part of the community, that you feel you can learn well there, that you have talked to faculty members, that you have talked to students. That's all going to be something that's going to be important for you to know, am I going to have a good fit? I honestly believe that many, many, many times, not always, but many, many, many times, when you get on a campus, you kind of feel, this is where I was meant to be. And I'm not saying there's just one school that will make you feel that way, but you'll know, I could spend 4 years here. I could have a really good experience here. So that's an important thing to be looking for. Some ways to find a good fit are up here as well. Visiting the campus. Going on the campus is so important. Talking to students, talking to the student ambassadors that are going to lead your tours. They were sitting in your chairs a year, 2, 3 years ago. They know why they chose that school. They know the good, the bad, and everything in between. And we employ our ambassadors in our admissions offices because we want to make sure that they're students who can really give you a good feel for what it's like to be a student. We tell them, we want you to be honest with your prospective students that you're bringing around. We want to make sure, because no place is perfect. And they're going to be able to give you information about what it's like to be a student at that school, and what it's like, why they chose it, why they are having a good experience, what things you should get involved in if you wind up attending there. So that's important. Don't make assumptions. Assumptions are very, very easy to make. You hear a lot of things on the news, in your neighborhood, your family, friends. People have lots of different opinions on a lot of different schools. Don't make an assumption that a school is for you or is not for you just from what other people are talking about. You never know until you experience it for yourself. You may have grown up and always thought, I could never imagine myself at XYZ school. But then when you go and you're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And that's going to be an important thing to remember. And then doing your research. We talked about that. This is not a process that you should start making decisions within a couple of days before you start submitting applications. This is something you need to think about and put some time in. It's a huge commitment. For students, it's probably going to be the biggest decision you have made so far, is where you're going to be attending. So it's really, really important for you to do a lot of research and know and make an informed decision, as any consumer should do with anything. If you were going to buy a car, you would do that. So if you're going to be looking for a college or university, that's important as well. A question I get asked a lot is right there. What are colleges looking for? Almost every institution will say the same thing, which is true. The main thing we are looking for in an applicant is a strong academic preparedness and strong academic background. We want to make sure that students can be successful on our campus. We want them to graduate. That's the end game, and we want to make sure that they have that preparedness in high school so that they can be successful on our campus. So these are the things that we're looking for. We're looking for a strong high school curriculum in 9th grade through 12th grade. We want to make sure that students have an upward trend in grades. A lot of times people come to me and say, freshman year, I just didn't do as well as I wanted to. I didn't take it as seriously, and I didn't do as well. That's okay. An upward trend in grades is something that an admissions office is going to definitely have a positive spin on, as opposed to a downward trend. I would much rather see a lower 9th grade and then you just going up and making sure that those grades are getting progressively better and better than the other way around. And that does happen sometimes too, and that's a negative. So if you haven't done well, or if you haven't done exactly what you wanted to do in 9th grade, that's okay. You can still bring those grades up, and that trend is something we're looking at. We're looking at strong grades and strong curriculum. So we're looking at things like AP courses. Are you in honors courses? Are you in dual enrollment courses? Are you taking the kind of courses that are going to prepare you to be on our campus and be successful here? Test scores, that's always my favorite. How many of you are excited to take the SAT or the ACT? Everyone can't wait. How many parents can still remember taking the SAT and ACT and still feeling anxiety over it? Yes. It is something we look at. It is required by the state of Florida for all the 12 state universities. It's one of the things that we are all required to look at. Some institutions are test optional. And that's something, again, while you're doing your research, you will see. Especially some private institutions, and many publics are now moving towards being test optional. But in the state of Florida, the SUSs, the 12 institutions that are public, we are required to look at SATs and ACTs. So it's not the most important thing in most cases. I would say if I was going to rank things, your GPA and the courses you've taken, that's what we're going to be looking at the most. That's what you've done for 4 years, as opposed to a test that is very important, but not necessarily the only thing we look at. I know a lot of students stress out over that, and hopefully you'll know that to not be as stressed about it. It is something we look at, but not the most important. And then we're looking for demonstrated leadership and engagement in activities. Activities are important. What you are involved in high school will predict what you'll do on our campus. If you are involved in things and are making contributions to your campus now, we can make a pretty good prediction that you'll do that on our campus, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking to build a engaged and diverse and community. We don't want just students who are going to go to class and then come back to their rooms and not do anything. We want students who are going to be involved. So that can help us as we're looking at applications, your activities that you have done throughout high school. So make sure you put that on your application. A strong academic curriculum is kind of listed here. This is what's required. It's the minimum requirements for the state of Florida for the 12 state universities. I would always say minimums are minimums. You should always try to do a little bit more. So that if, for example, world language, we require 2 years of a world language. A lot of students will say, should I take 3 or is 2 enough? 2 meets the requirement, but definitely if you want to take another year, that can also help your GPA as well and can help your preparedness as you come to our campus. So these are the main requirements: 4 years of English, 4 years of math at the Algebra 1 level or higher, 3 years of a natural science, 3 years of social science, 2 years of a world language being the same world language, or American Sign Language is also included in that, and then 2 college prep electives that fall into that. So if you really like math and you've taken 4 years of math already and you say, I really, really like math, or I'm going to be a STEM major and I really think I should take another one of those electives can be another math course. So that's something to keep in mind as you're picking. AP, IB, dual enrollment, ACE courses, we weight those at the state universities here in Florida. We look at that as we recalculate your GPA and we say, these students have taken really strong courses and we want to give them the benefit of those courses. So we weight them a full point if it's AP, IB, dual enrollment, or ACE, and then any honors courses you take, we will weight a half a point. So when we get your GPA, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be the GPA we look at for admission purposes here at UCF. We recalculate, we look at just the academic core, which is the courses that are up here. That's your academic core. And then we'll be looking at any weighting that we can do and add that in, and that's how we recalculate your GPA. So it will be similar to what's on your transcript now, but it won't typically be identical. So just to be aware of that. When we are making admission decisions, we are looking at a number of things. And when my team is looking at files and we're looking at a student, there are a number of different things that we're looking at. We are looking to build a talented and diverse student body, as I mentioned before. We are looking to evaluate a student's admission based on their academics. We want to make sure that they're prepared to be successful in the courses that they will be taking immediately upon arriving at the institution. We want to make sure that they have that ability to do really well in those courses and have that background. And then we're also meeting enrollment goals. We are tasked each year to have a certain number of students, a size. We have a number each year that, and this is true across every university and college in the nation, we are given enrollment goals of what our freshman class, the sizes, the quality of the students. We want to see what their average GPAs are, their average test scores. We also are tasked with special programs. A lot of times there'll be perhaps a special program that's trying to increase enrollment. Perhaps a major doesn't have as many students as they would like, or they're expanding. At that point, we're told, we are looking to have more XYZ majors, and that's something that we're taking into consideration as we're reviewing files throughout the year to see all of that. So we want to be able to recognize special talents. We want to be able to recognize special abilities, and they can range from anything. A lot of students will say, well, what would they be? I need to know that, so that would tell me what I need to have. You can't really know what a school is looking for. It may be one year that they need oboe players. The next year, they may need members of a science club or a programming team or student government members. So it can be anything, so it's hard to really tell. So we want you to be you on your application. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about the activities that you're doing. Tell us about what you're involved in. Don't try to make you into our little box and I'm going to make myself the perfect applicant. Just tell us who you are, because that's what we're going to be able to make a decision on, when we're looking at your academics, but also all the great things you're going to bring to our institution, all the great things you're involved in, all of the great things you want to be doing. Definitely important to really be clear about that on the application. Students a number of times will say to me, I didn't want to say, that I was involved. It sounded like I was bragging. Your application is the time for you to brag. And remember that. We want to know what you're involved in. We want to know the things, if you're the president of a club. We want to know if you're the secretary, if you have a leadership role. We won't know unless you tell us. So now's the time on the application to tell us all of those things. Preparing for college can be overwhelming, preparing for the process. I want you to remember, and this is one of those things I hope that you'll take away from it, a lot of people think that the application process is completely out of their hands, that the student has I'm anxious about it, I don't have any say in the matter. There's 3 parts of the admission process, and you have control over 2 of them. You have control over where you apply. We then make the offer of admission, and then you have the control over where you choose to enroll. So remember that. You are part of this process. It is not just the colleges making decisions behind a wall that you don't see. You are an active part, and parents, you're active parts as well in this college admissions process. So definitely keep that in mind. Staying on track is important. Each semester counts, and that's one of the things that I think is important for people to remember. High school is 8 semesters, which when you break it down like that, you're like, wow, that's not very long. And typically we'll be making decisions on 6, because typically it'll be your first 3 years. You'll be applying in the fall of your senior year. We'll get those grades, and we have to do well in those courses, but that is the bulk of your time in high school is done by your junior year. So that is important, and every semester does count. Stay organized. Build a spreadsheet. Get a binder. Do it on your phone, however works best for you. Have something that you're able to go to that will list all of the schools that you're interested in. Narrow that down to where you're applying. Narrow that down to where you want to visit, when their open houses are, when their deadlines are. You will forget. When you're looking on websites and you're looking at view books, we all sort of run together. And when you're looking at typically 5 or 6 or 7 schools that you're applying to, it's going to be really easy to forget those things. So I would definitely encourage you to get a system. Mom and dad can help get a system so that everything is in one place and you can kind of refer to it, know when scholarship applications are due, know when financial aid applications are due. You will be very thankful for that process at the end, because it can be a little overwhelming when you think of all of the things that are going on. Start building an ongoing resume as you go through high school. If you're in 9th grade now, you think that you will never forget that you were the treasurer of the Key Club. You may forget that when you're doing your applications 3 years down the road. You may not remember all of those things that you were involved in. Keep a resume going and just kind of put things that you were involved in. If you were in a play, if you were joined a club or organization, put all of that in there so that you'll remember when you're doing your applications at the beginning of your senior year, yes, let me make sure I put that on there because I had forgotten I didn't continue doing Key Club, but I did it for my 9th grade. So remember to build that. And basically challenge yourself academically is really important to be staying on track. We want to make sure that you have done the coursework that's required and a little bit more, but that you are prepared to come to the college campus. We want to make sure that you've challenged yourself academically. If I have been asked once, I've been asked a million times, and it's usually worded almost exactly like this. Is it better for me to get an A in a regular course or a B in an honors or AP course? Which would you prefer? My answer never gets, people sort of look at me and say, oh, because my answer is I'd rather you get the A in the AP course. But challenge yourself. If you think, don't just go for the easy A. Just don't say, well, I know I can get an A in that course, but maybe if I took that AP class, maybe I would get that B, but I would work really hard and I'd be really prepared as I go into the college level work. So think about that as you're making your choices for college, for your high school courses each year. This brochure was on your table or you picked it up out front, I'm not sure. So it kind of talks a little bit about this. This is what we call our road to UCF, but it can also be a road to really any college, within the system and also within around the country. This is kind of going to tell you what you need to do year after year and kind of things to keep in mind. So I'm going to talk briefly about the different years. I won't highlight too much of it because some of it's self-explanatory, but Freshman year, it's really important for you to get to know your college counselor, get to know, what kind of, do high schools come to visit, or do colleges come to visit your high schools, and do high school visits each year? What year are you able to start going to those? Those sorts of questions are really important to talk to college counselors about, and you want them to get to know you. They may be the ones who are writing your letters of recommendation, and you want someone who's writing your letter of recommendation to know who you are, and that's a great time to start in your freshman year to get that face time with them. Establishing good study habits, obviously very important. Choosing those advanced level courses, really important. And then just really starting doing research. It's not a time to obsess, and I really would highly recommend that you not, don't spend 3-4 hours a day trying to do this in 9th grade. That's not what we're saying. But as you kind of are thinking about different schools, pop over onto their website, kind of do some research. It's not something you have to do 24/7, nor should you, but it is something that you can start doing early on because you can do it right from the comfort of your own home. Sophomore year, it's starting to get a little more intense. You'll take the PSAT typically in your sophomore year. That is the pre-test to the SAT. So it's a really good opportunity here in Florida. All students are required to take the PSAT, so you will do that your sophomore year. Sophomore year is an important time to get involved. It's an important time to get involved in things like extracurricular activities, perhaps honor societies, academic clubs, leadership opportunities. Great time to start really doing that and really focusing on your academics. Sophomore year is definitely a time that you're building. You haven't just entered high school, and you're definitely at that point working on some higher level courses and some preparation for courses that you're going into your junior and senior year that are going to be critical. And then there's junior year. How many of you are juniors out here now? Quite a few, yeah. It's a busy year. It's when things really start to get real, I think. This is the year that you're going to be taking your SAT and your ACT. I would highly recommend that every student consider taking both. Basically, the SAT or the ACT, almost everyone does better in one over the other. Unless you take both, you won't know which it is. We accept both. I don't think there's any college or university in the country that will not accept all of them now, either one. And we're going to look at your best one. So submit all of the scores to us, and we will take the best one we can because we want to be able to offer a student admission. So it's important to do that. Attend college fairs. College fairs are great opportunities. If you haven't gone to one yet, they are like trick-or-treating for adults. You will go around a room about this size, and there will be 40, 50, 60, 70 colleges and universities from around the country there with brochures and a representative from that institution, and you can ask them questions. You can get on their mailing list to get even more information. You can pick up brochures to bring home and read. Great opportunities for students to kind of see what's out there and see what's available. Visiting college campuses is a great time in your junior year, especially maybe the summer between your junior and senior year. Opportunities to take campus tours, any kind of campus visit is a great time during your junior year to kind of start narrowing down. And then this is also a good time to start researching scholarship and admission requirements because you'll be starting to apply within 6 to 8 months. And now's the time to really think about what's going to go into those applications. I'm narrowing my list down. I started out with this huge list of schools that I'm interested in, and now it's down to maybe 20. And now I think I'm going to apply to maybe 7. And as I'm moving it down, that's where you're going to be seeing, and these schools have these requirements and these deadlines, and it kind of pulls that all together as you go through the process. And then there's senior year. And senior year is exciting, and there's a lot of seniors in here, and I'm excited for you because there's so much going on, but I know it's nerve-wracking. I know it is. Attending open houses are great opportunities. We have 8 open houses here a year. They're Saturday events where we kind of open the campus up, and we allow students to really kind of walk around, and we do presentations, and the academic colleges come out, and clubs and organizations come out. And it's really a great opportunity to see what institutions are like. And I would highly recommend you to think about going to an open house event. Retaking the SAT and the ACT in the fall, great opportunity for that as well. If you're looking to increase your scores, if you're looking maybe to increase to get bright futures, if you're looking to increase to maybe be more competitive for a scholarship, that's the time that you can definitely in the fall of the senior year do that. Submitting your college applications in the fall is important. We're unrolling, so we open our application up in August 1st every year. Other schools have deadlines. A lot of deadlines are November 1, so look at those deadlines and get those in the fall. Applying for financial aid, as luck would have it, today is a big day in financial aid. October 1st is the day that the FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, opens up. That means that students that are seniors now, as of today, you and your families can fill out the FAFSA for next year. And that's really, really an important thing. And I know it seems really early, but it's important to get that in. For example, at UCF, our priority deadline for financial aid is December 1st. So you want to make sure that you have that in as early as you can. So go out to their website in order to get that as well. May 1st is the universal deadline of when you need to make a decision. We're enrolling at Mission. We've already offered over 1,000 students at Mission for 2020 at this point. But those students have an admission offer in their hand, but they don't have to make a decision until May 1. So don't feel like if I apply early and I find out, then what if I don't find out from my other schools? May 1st is the day that you have to make a decision, and you don't have to do it one day earlier. If you know where you're going to go, absolutely great. Deposit, you're fine. But May 1st, no school can make you make a decision earlier than that. So keep that in mind. That's an important date. Some tips for applying. Meeting deadlines, obviously. Your senior year is going to go incredibly, incredibly fast. So senior year, make sure that you are meeting your deadlines. Making sure that you meet with your college counselor. They're the experts. Look out for unofficial sources that you're looking at. Don't take unofficial information as the gospel. We see on the internet all the time blogs or websites where people can just start typing in answers to people's questions. You don't know who's typing the answers in. I go out on pages all the time and get really nervous because I have people who are like, oh, well, I know the deadline at UCF is October 3rd. You don't know that. You're wrong. But people are looking at that, and they're saying, well, they told me on such and such a website. Only go to official sites to get information. You don't know who's on the other side of that information as they're typing out. I'm sure they're very well-intentioned, and nobody's trying to get anybody inaccurate information, but it's really important to get official information. Treat every application like it's your first choice. When you're filling out applications, please do not apply to just one school, even if you know you only want to come to UCF, I know that. But don't just apply to one school. You don't want to be in that position where at the end you're like, I should have applied other places and now I can't. But treat every school like it's your first choice on the application. I know when I'm reading an application if someone really wants to come to UCF, and I know when they don't. If they kind of phone in the thing and they don't fill out everything and they don't do the essay and all those sorts of things, we know. So treat them like the first choice. That is really, really, really important. Some practical tips that I wanted to add. When I said read, I don't mean War and Peace. I mean read instructions. I mean read emails, read letters that we send you. We want to get as much information to students, and we want to make sure you have those to be able to make informed decisions. But you would be surprised how many times students will say, oh, I know you sent me an email, but I don't read my emails. You need to read your emails. I don't read my mail. You have to read your mail. Read instructions, so important. Following directions seems rather simple. We have essays on our application. We give 4 essays, and we ask you to choose 2, and you can choose whichever 2. All the time, we will have students say, can I just write the topic of my choice? No, I'd really like you to write about the topics I asked you to write about. So follow the directions. If a school is asking a certain question, they want an answer to that question. That is important to them. It may be important to their faculty. It may be important to who knows where the question came from. But it's important that if they're asking it, there is a reason why they're asking it. Proofreading. Proofreading is also really, really important. Spell check is your friend, but spell check will also say a word is right if it's a word, but it's not the word you wanted to use. So really, really be careful about that. You're trying to put your very best foot forward when you're doing your applications. So it's important that you're looking at dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's to make sure that when you submit that application, you're putting the best picture of you out there. Every year, and as I said, you shouldn't just be applying to one school, but every year we see students who will submit applications. to us, and they will submit their essay. And I'll read the essay, and it'll be a great essay, and it'll talk about how much they cannot wait to come to my institution. They've wanted to be here forever. This is the only place that they want to be. And then I get to the end, and it says, and I cannot wait to be a student next year at the University of Michigan. Happens all the time. We know that you are writing essays. We know you may reuse them. It's okay. Many of our topics are the same. It's okay. Make sure you take out the name, put in the right name, submit it. You don't want to send something out in the universe that you don't want the admissions committee to read. They'll read it, they'll laugh at it, but it's something that you don't necessarily want to have out there. So think about that and make sure you proofread. Checking your portal. Every institution has portals. What we do is we put on that portal where you went, what your status is, what we're missing, what we want, if we want your additional transcripts, additional test scores, that is all going to be on your portal. Check that. Don't check it every day. Don't check it 7 times a day. That'll just drive you crazy, and that's not why we're here. But check it periodically. At UCF, we send emails that say, your portal's been updated. Go out to your portal and check it. That's the time to go out and say, okay, let me go and see what they want, and let me figure that out. If we ask for updated credentials, send the updated credentials. A lot of times we'll defer for first semester senior grades. That's not a bad thing. We just want to see how you're doing. And students will say, do I really need to send them? Yes, you really need to send them. If we ask for them, you really need to send them. Very important. So provide any information that we are asking for. And then there's social media. Social media 10 years ago wasn't part of a presentation that I did at all. There was no reason to have it, absolutely. But now it's an important piece. It's an important piece of people's lives, and it's part of students' lives. Question we get often asked is, do you look at our social media? Will you look me up on Facebook? Will you look me up on Instagram? Quite frankly, I don't have that kind of time. But every year, we get anonymous tips by people will take a screenshot of someone's Facebook page or a picture they posted on Instagram and will send it to me just to let me know that an applicant did X, Y, Z. Be careful what you put on social media. That is important to know. Be careful. You want to make sure your presence on social media represents you correctly. And you want to make sure that college admissions offices, your grandmother, your future employers, all of those things, all of those people have a good look of what you are all about. Don't make that mistake. Beware of that. It's really, really important. Email addresses, I would highly recommend, because you will get a lot of email, and I know students in here don't like to check email. How many students like to check email or will check your email? Oh, okay, good. Keep doing it. But a lot won't. But email is going to be critical. That's how colleges and universities are going to communicate with you throughout this process. They're going to be looking at that. On your emails, create a special one. Create one with a professional name, a professional, maybe your name, and then at Gmail or wherever. Be careful of emails that you may have had for years and you just happen to have, and I'll just put the one I always use. And you don't want it to have anything that's suggestive, risque. You'd be surprised how many future Gators at random number at Gmails there are out there. You don't want to put your name on there, and then that's a professional email address that you're giving to the college admissions office. Every year we kind of bounce them across the office and say, look what this one person had and this one, and we laugh at them, and it doesn't stop us from admitting a student. But that's not necessarily, if you're looking to come to UCF, probably your email shouldn't be Future Gator. Just saying. So, the UCF application review process, I wanted to cover really briefly. These are the kind of things that we are looking at that are important for UCF specifically. This is just UCF, and because of course I can't not talk about UCF while I'm here. We are looking, as I said, online application, our own or the Common App. We're looking at your transcripts, we're looking at your test scores, we're looking at your essay. We want you to tell your story. It is highly recommended but not required. If something is highly recommended but not required, you should do it. So if someone says it's highly recommended, definitely do that. Your co-curricular involvement is important. Quantity versus quality. I would rather you be involved in one thing that you are passionate about than being involved in every club and organization that you have at your school, because I know that you're not really involved in 77 different clubs and organizations. But if you really like to write for the school paper, and that's really all you have time to do because you're so passionate about that, that is perfectly fine. You don't have to be in 18 different clubs to be considered engaged. So think about that. For fall of this past year, we received about 35,000 applications for our freshman class. Our freshman class is a little under 3,900 students, so it is a competitive pool. This is our averages. They're only our averages, but we have above and below, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of where we are academically at this point. So that's out there, but it's not out there to scare you. It is purely so you have kind of an idea of where our freshman class is at that point. We admit students for both summer, fall, and spring, all those terms. I know probably the parents in the room, spring wasn't even an option for us when we went going to college. You usually went in the fall. Maybe a smaller group would go in the summer, and spring, nobody really started in the spring. Now, spring is huge at all 12 state universities and at many, many schools around the country. So those options are available for students. We have fall's our biggest class. Summer's a little bit smaller, but not much. And then spring has a number of students as well. So there's a lot of different options that maybe weren't available a number of years ago. Briefly, our Top 10 Nights program is a program where we guarantee admission to students that are in the top 10% of their class. That are in a Florida high school and meet some certain requirements. I won't go through all of them because it's a lengthy list, but it guarantees you admission to one of our terms. If you are in the top 10% of your class, definitely consider meeting that January 15th deadline. We're enrolling admission otherwise. This is the only program we have that has a specific deadline for admission. If you apply by January 15th, and you will be guaranteed to offer admission for one of those 3 terms. So it's a great, great program. We're in our 5th year now of Top 10 Nights, and it's giving certainty of admission to UCF to students that have done really, really well in high school, had really strong GPAs, may not have tested as well, but have a strong class rank and are at the top of their class. So we are very, very excited to continue the Top 10 Night program. Paying for college, important to every person in this room, but especially to the moms and dads and family members that are here. Paying for college, Bright Futures is available for students. Make sure that you work with your student and your college counselor at the high school to make sure that all of the paperwork that needs to be done is done. There is paperwork that has to be filled out, so make sure that is all completed. Fastweb.com is a great place to look for financial aid and scholarships, and it is something that is basically free for students to look for. The caveat I always say that if you're on the web looking for scholarships, if someone's asking you to pay for scholarships for you, if they say, if you pay us $1,000, we'll find you all sorts of money. Typically, you don't give money to get money. So there's a lot of free searches, and a lot of times if they're asking you to pay for it, there's a reason why they're asking you to pay for it, so beware of that. The FAFSA, as I mentioned, is available starting on October 1st every year. And then our Student Financial Assistance Office at finaid.ucf.edu is the financial aid office here at UCF. They are great people. They not only work with all of the financial aid available for students and disperse financial aid, but they also have what's called Sensible Nights. Sensible Nights is a financial literacy program for students, and when you end up here at UCF, I would encourage all of the students that are here to participate in the different programs through Sensible Nights, because we want students to make smart decisions financially from the very first day they get to us, so that they're prepared to move out and beyond us once they have their degree, and that they're ready at that point to do that, and they make some smart choices. And I just wanted to leave some final thoughts. Things that I think are important, and I think that I've been in this business for about 25 years now. I started when I was 7, so that's good. But I've kind of learned a few things, and I hope that some of you and all of you will remember some of this. You are not defined by an admission letter. Where you are admitted to school is no reflection on your worth as a student or a person. Don't wrap yourself up in that and think that if you're not admitted to a certain school, that there's something wrong with you, because there isn't. So please, please, please remember that. There's no one perfect school. I think UCF comes pretty close, but there's no perfect school for everyone. You're looking for a good fit for you, and it's your responsibility and your charge to find that fit for you. And only you can do that. Only you can do the self-reflection. Only you can do that work to make sure that you do get that good fit, which is what you want to do. Take the process seriously, but keep in perspective. As I said before, don't, when you get into your 10th grade year, say, I'm going to every day spend an hour and a half trying to research colleges. That will drive you crazy. Keep it in perspective. Moms and dads, I always recommend, if you're going to have conversations, maybe set one day a week. If your students are a little bit younger, it's going to increase as they move towards that senior year. But as they are going through the process, maybe say Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings is when we're going to talk about college and your college search. But don't make it an every single night conversation. You'll stress out, they'll stress out. It's not going to help anybody. So really, really think about that. There are, as I mentioned, about 4,000 schools and universities in the country. We hear about 200 of them. I know that's some of the number that was thrown out a couple times here, and that's how you think, oh, there's only 200, because that's all you're hearing about. There are very highly selective institutions around the country that will admit 5 to 10% of their applicant pool. Those are the numbers that you're hearing when you're watching the news and you're hearing about different things about college admissions. That's what you're hearing about, those schools that admit 6% of their applicants. And that scares you, and who wouldn't it scare? But more than half of the colleges and institutions around this country admit more than half of their applicants. So you will go to college. You will have that opportunity if you want to do that. But don't be obsessed by the numbers of the fact that I can't go there because they only admit 3% of their applicants. So that would drive you insane as well. And admission is not the end game. Graduation with your bachelor's degree is more of the end game. And there may be some beyond that, but that is where you need to be looking. That's just the first step. Admission is the first step. And students, when they end up, whatever school they end up at, it may be your first choice, it may be your second, it may be your third choice. The vast majority are going to graduate and go on to live happy and successful lives. And keep that in mind. I know it's a stressful time, and I know it can be a little overwhelming, but remember that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when it's all in the rearview mirror, you're going to kind of hopefully laugh a little bit about it, that it wasn't nearly as bad as you thought it was, and maybe say, I understood a little bit more about the process. And it's not as crazy as they make it to be. I wish you nothing but luck and success. I hope tonight answered some of your questions, hopefully brought that anxiety level down a little bit. I hope you're interested in UCF, and I hope you all want to be UCF Knights. I think it's a great place to be. I think your moms and dads that are here would agree. It's a great institution, and I wish you nothing but luck. And if I can be of any help, my email address is up top there, so please feel free to pop me an email. Usually people remember their questions as they're driving home or tomorrow morning, so definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to assist with anything. And as I end every presentation, go Knights! Charge on! Do we have time for questions? Yep, we have time for a couple of questions if you're interested.
If I heard you correctly, 35,000 for the fall.
Yes.
3,900 approved.
3,900 enroll.
Okay, so that's just for the fall. So would I say roughly 10,000 a year? Plus or minus?
For applications as a whole?
As to what you either approve or enroll.
Right, exactly. So for the fall semester, we get about 35,000 applications. Of that, we will admit about 14 to 15,000 of those students, and then about 3,900 will enroll in the fall. Because students are applying to more than one institution, which is the suggested. So we may offer admission to them. It doesn't mean they'll necessarily enroll.
So out of that 3,900, how many were top 10 Knights?
We had about 6,000 top 10 Knights in our applicant pool last year.
Wow. I would not have thought that high.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We have our freshman class has done extremely well, and their credentials each year. This past fall was our most talented academically class that we've had. With their GPA and the SAT and ACT scores were the highest that the university has seen. We had 90 National Merit Scholars joined us as freshmen this year. So we're very excited by that. We have over 330 National Merit Scholars enrolled at the university right now. So the students that are here are doing amazing things, and we couldn't be prouder of them. Yes.
On slide 9, the DE, standing for dual enrollment. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
As far as kids that are like in their senior year and they're going on their second year of dual enrollment, they don't have enough credit yet to have an AA degree, but yet they have enough credit to enter in as a sophomore per se.
Yes.
So on their applications, do they do as a transfer or do they go as a freshman?
That is a great question. We are seeing more and more students coming in with higher numbers of credit coming in, as well as some coming in with their Associate of Arts degree, which is their first 2 years, 60 hours of work. So the state, the Florida Board of Governors is the governing body that governs all of the 12 state universities, and that's who we kind of report to. They make our regulations that we have to abide by. So they have determined that if students have, once they graduate from high school, if they have less than 12 hours of college level work earned after their high school graduation, so they could have 60 hours while they were still in high school, but if they don't have less than 12 after their high school graduation date, they do apply as an FTIC, which is first time in college. That is what the state of Florida calls basically freshmen, FTIC, first time in college. If they have 12 hours of college level work earned after high school graduation, then they become a transfer student. And we do have to abide by that ruling. So if a student applies the wrong way, we will fix it. So if they apply as a transfer, but we see they won't have those 12 hours, we will change them to an FTIC. FTICs do have to meet all of the same admission requirements as other FTICs. So even though they have a large number of college credits or the AA degree, they still have to meet the same FTIC requirements that the Florida Board of Governors dictates.
And back to the dual enrollment, as a senior, they are allowed now not to take English 4, they can take English 1 at the college level.
Right.
Now, of the 6 out of 8, I guess, semesters, then that still is counted because it's a college. I mean, how does that work in terms of weighted?
Sure, absolutely. It would be weighted as a full point. Dual enrollment courses are weighted a full point, so we would take that, and it's going to be on their high school transcript. So when a student takes dual enrollment, they'll have a high school transcript. They will have a dual enrollment transcript from the community or state college that they're doing dual enrollment through. And what will happen is when they finish a course, the state college will send that course back to the high school. The high school will put it on the transcript for the high school, but they'll also still have a college transcript as well. So we get the high school transcript, we do the recalculation because we see it's indicated as Comp 1 is ENC 1101, so we see that it's on there, so we know it's a dual enrollment class, so we will weight that a full point on the grade with that. Yes?
Do you have any recommendations for students wanting to pursue athletics at the college level?
Absolutely. We are Division I, and we have a really good football team. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we have a wonderful array of Division I sports. Our women this year won 3 of their American Athletic Championships, tennis, rowing, and volleyball, I believe. So there is just a lot of really great things going on at UCF Athletics. Because we're Division I, and there's a lot of NCAA requirements for students, and they range from when a coach can speak to a student. It can affect their eligibility if they speak to them at the wrong time, if there's a dead period for a particular sport. What we do is we always recommend, because we don't want to hurt anybody's eligibility, what you need to do is have your coaches contact our coaches. They all know the rules, and they know when students can talk to coaches and when coaches can talk to them. I also want you to be aware of that if you do contact a coach and you don't hear back from them, many times it's because they cannot get in touch with you because of one of those dead periods. So don't just assume they're just not getting back in touch with you. It's probably more than likely to protect you because it can hurt your eligibility. So the best thing is have your coaches contact our coaches. You can go onto our athletics website. They have a listing by sport of all of the assistant coaches, the head coaches, and all of the people within each sport. You can always pop them an email, and they're really they're willing to let you know that. Compliance at UCF Athletics is also they're there to make sure that we are compliant in everything we do, so they could answer questions too. Probably the earlier, if you know you want to do that, finding out what the process is. Sometimes they'll have coaches will come out to visit. Sometimes they'll see videotapes. So it's really going to depend by sport. Yes.
The question I have is related to what she was talking about with the dual enrollment. For the campuses that are in the Direct Connect programs, are the requirements still the same?
The requirements for admission?
For what you were saying about even if they have an AA degree, they still have to be an FTIC.
If they do have that if they haven't earned 12 hours after their high school graduation date. So if they graduate in, say, May of 2020, and then they're planning on taking 12 hours during the summer, which I wouldn't recommend, but if they were, then they would become a transfer student at that point. But if they're going to have less than 12, and then they would apply as an FTIC.
If they graduate with the AA degree
At the same time.
And the diploma at the
FTIC.
same time, then
Yep.
they're FTIC.
They'd be FTIC. Yep, so they should apply fall of the senior year, just like all FTICs should. They should make sure that they have their SATs done. We frequently, unfortunately, sometimes we'll see students who are on that track to get the AA degree, and either they've never taken the SAT or they take it so long ago when they went into dual enrollment that it's not the score that they wanted or it's not competitive for admission here. And they'll submit applications a little bit later in the process, or thinking I'm getting my AA in May, I'll do it in my spring semester. Really, as an FTIC, they need to get that in the fall of their senior year. So even though they are in college courses, they are still considered an FTIC. And that's across all 12 state universities in Florida, because we are governed by the same Board of Governors. Yes.
Hi, yes. In reference to courses or classes that are dual enrollment, et cetera, AP, if the school already weights those courses, does UCF add an additional point or half point?
We actually will, we recalculate everything, so we never take what's on the transcript. We just take the grade in the course. And so if we see it's a dual enrollment course or it's an AP course, we at that point will add that weight. So however, there are some districts, I know one in particular here in the state will weight AP courses 2 points. That's not something that's done here locally, but it is something that does happen. So their GPA is substantially higher because every AP course is weighted 2 points. Our state system says 1 point. So that's why we recalculate, and we'll recalculate it using our weighting system.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does having a Florida prepaid plan have any effect on admissions?
It does not. It is one of the questions that will be asked on the application. When you're completing your application, whether for UCF, whether it's the online application or it's the common application, there is going to be a residency section that will talk about your residency for tuition purposes. That will be asked in one of those sections. Do you have Florida prepaid? And then we would ask for you to send a copy of the front and back of the prepaid card that you have that will show all the numbers, and then that would make sure that our student accounts knows that you have the Florida prepaid. No, it does not impact admission at all. Our admission is based on academic credentials solely. We look at activities, we look at those things, but nothing financial. So we don't look at need, we don't look at financial aid, anything like that as part of the process.
I didn't hear much about the Burnett Honors College. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the Burnett Honors College is one of our 13 colleges. It's a great opportunity. It's sort of like having a small liberal arts institution right within a large research public institution. So you have the benefits of a small liberal arts background, but yet you still have all the opportunities that are available at a research institution. You can be in any major and be in the Honors College. There is a separate application process, so you'd be offered admission to the university, and then you would apply separately to honors. And their deadlines, they have a couple of deadlines. One's in January, one's in March. Their deadline in January is when they do have some limited scholarships available, and that's when a student would have to get their application in by that January deadline. They do admit some students into March, but I believe all scholarships at that point have been distributed for that. It's about 1,700 students. And as I said, you can be in any major of our majors within the university. Some of your courses are going to be smaller. There's going to be a symposium class that you'd be taking. There's going to be some of the courses will have caps of 20 students in it. You will be taking some of your courses. So you basically have two colleges that you have a home for. So if you are an engineering major, if you're mechanical engineering, you have you're in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, but then you're also in the Burnett Honors College. So they work together, and faculty members cross over. So it's a great opportunity. If a student is looking to have that kind of experience, it's phenomenal. It's one of the best honors colleges around.
How many letters of recommendation would you recommend?
Yes. I can speak for UCF, and again, I can't speak for anybody else. We do not require letters of recommendation. We do not accept letters of recommendation. So that is new this year. We have in the past that we have accepted those, but we've decided at this point that we are not. The only time that a student can submit a letter of recommendation is if they are denied admission, which hopefully nobody would be. But if they're denied admission, they will then, if they want to appeal that to our faculty committee, which is called the Admissions and Standards Committee, they can then submit letters of recommendation upon appeal, but not for initial admission review.
So back in the day when I went to college, it was a community college, not a four-year school, but you had to, if you applied, the four-year university then had to take an AA degree, and it was a given that the person was going to be accepted. Is that still the case?
Here in Florida, the articulation agreement between the 28 state colleges and the 12 public universities, the state universities, the agreement says that a student who earns their AA degree from one of the 28 is guaranteed admission into one of the 12. It does not guarantee admission to the school of their choice, and it may not be their first choice, but they would be guaranteed into one of the 12. We go a little bit further from that with our Direct Connect to UCF program. We have 6 partner institutions, Valencia, Seminole State, Daytona State, Eastern Florida State, Lake Sumter, and College of Central Florida. Got them all. And if you get your AA from any of those 6, you are guaranteed admission specifically to UCF. So we guarantee that those students would specifically get in here. We try to take as many AA graduates from around the state as we possibly can. In fact, we receive more state AA students at UCF than any other state institution. So we get about 25% of the state AA students do choose to come to UCF. But those students from Direct Connect institutions are guaranteed specifically here. I think we might be out of time. Are we good? Well, again, I want to thank you all. Those are great questions. And I think that hopefully, like I said, some of this was helpful. I know it's a lot of information in an hour, and I apologize for that, but it's a big topic. So if you do have questions that come up, please feel free to email me. I'd be happy to answer them for you. And good luck. And once again, I will say, go Knights. Charge on.
Can everybody please give Elizabeth a round of applause for that wonderful presentation?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
All right, well, that concludes this evening's program. Thank you all for joining us. We love hosting you. We love welcoming Knights back to campus. If you have any questions for me or Elizabeth, we'll be here for a few more minutes after the event concludes. Please feel free to take refreshments on your way out. And thank you again, and get home safely.